Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We've had 3 days of very great energy, vibrancy, and dynamism here. I mean, really terrific energy here. And we have a power-packed panel on this very unique subject today. And let me just introduce the panel, very distinguished panel. Let me welcome them. First and foremost, let me get on stage Dipali Goenka. She's the CEO and Joint Managing Director of Welspun India Limited. Dipali is a very accomplished business leader known for her dynamism, entrepreneurial spirit, and passion for people who's driving the growth of Welspun textile business to $1 billion dollars globally. Any one of you who goes and witnesses Wimbledon, all the towels used there are all Welspun towels. Let me next welcome Christina Davison. Christina is the co-founder and managing partner at iEurope Capital. Christina Perkin Davison is the co-founding partner. She's a private equity, this is a private equity fund that invests in technology. It invests in companies in the emerging economies of Central Eastern Europe. She advises entrepreneurs on ways to grow their businesses by taking advantage of social networks to expand their markets, engage in collaborative partnerships, and follow disciplined cash flow management techniques. Wonderful to have you with us, Christina. Let me next welcome Lerotto Selena Motsamai, who's the founder and CEO of Google Lerotto. Welcome, Lerotto. Lovely to have you with us. Lerotto Motsamai is the founder and CEO of Petrolink, a South African-based manufacturer of high-grade industrial and automotive lubricants, oils, and greases that she founded in 2012. That's an amazing area to work in, Lerotto. Very, very unusual, but amazing. She's had a remarkable, very rewarding 15-year career in the petrochemical sector. She's been named by several business reports as one of the 4 women influencing the energy sector in South Africa, and she plays a very active role in various industry bodies in South Africa. Lovely to have you with us. Next, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Manish Sabharwal, who's the chairman and co-founder of Team Lease Services. This is India's largest staffing and human capital firm. Team Lease has over 130,000 employees in 5,000 cities and is implementing India's first vocational university in Gujarat and first national private-public partnership apprenticeship program. Wonderful to have you with us, Manish. Last but not the least, let me welcome Mark Green. He's a very distinguished member of this US delegation here. He's the US Aid Administrator. Welcome, Mark. Lovely to have you with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a power-packed panel full of very, very distinguished people here. Let me start off with Mark. Mark, I've been here for 3 days. I've interacted with a lot of men and a lot of women entrepreneurs. Why is it, the women entrepreneurs in this conference are just getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and the men entrepreneurs are getting dumber and dumber and dumber. Why is that happening? I mean, the women entrepreneurs here, they just outsmart the men.
So is there a reason that you asked me? So I must be the one who's getting dumber and dumber and dumber as we go.
That question was specifically focused on you. The US Aid.
So what I will say is I think we see in this summit the vibrancy of women entrepreneurs. And I think there is a sense that this is the time for women entrepreneurs. that they are rising, and as they rise, we all rise. So I think what you're seeing is a natural optimism that comes as women rise further and further and take their rightful role at the table. So I wouldn't put it as dumber and smarter. Others may do that. Instead, I would say that we are feeling the energy, optimism, and hopefulness that comes with women entrepreneurs having their moment.
Lovely, lovely, wonderful. Dipali, I mean, you've had a great track record of working in partnership with a vast range of women groups. You know, I mean, given the fact that India's seen a lot of self-help groups in rural areas, I mean, we have about close to 2.2 million self-help groups, amazing work being done by several self-help group women. You know, I mean, our track record shows that women self-help groups, they return their money back to financial institutions much quicker, much faster. They're better in repaying money back. Their track record is incredibly high compared to large businesses. I just wanted to ask you that given that 70% of India's population lives in villages, how do we empower and encourage entrepreneurship amongst rural women? How do we drive this agenda forward?
First of all, this question is very close to our heart at Wellspun because we employ around 20,000 people at Textiles, and our vow to take on 20% women at Wellspun is like paying its dividends. I just want to quote that, you know, when you talk about the rural India, and I want to just have an example here. There's a girl called Avni Bhadra. She basically was at Wellspun. She was chosen by Walmart in a program of multi-skilling and multitasking by an NGO called Swasti to go to Arkansas to present what she learned. Imagine the kind of aspiration that she created for the young girls in the rural part of our country. And when you say that, I think it created several Avni Bhadras in Gujarat and at Wellspun. And I think that motivated a lot of girls to take that forward. So when you talked about mentorship, I think that's where the mentorship begins.
Thank you. Loreto, you're such a unique role model. I mean, to be such a dynamic entrepreneur in the world of petroleum and petrochemicals, rarely seen in Africa, rarely seen in Africa. I mean, such a unique role model. I mean, how do we create more women role models like you who embody the principles of empowerment?
Thank you, Mr. Kant. Firstly, I'd like to thank the City of Hyderabad and the Government of India for the invitation, as well as the US government. I believe that as I sit here in a very esteemed panel and very privileged, I do not only represent my country, South Africa, but I represent the women of Africa, because our issues are very much the same. And earlier on, I was just saying to my colleague here that the issues of the women in India are very much the same. So we're all fighting the same struggle, the same causes. Having said that, I am a firm believer that women don't just build businesses, they build nations. So at the end of the day is that wherever you've been placed in a privileged position of being able to make a difference, doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter how big, it really is your responsibility and your purpose to be able to make that difference. Now, those women who are role models, like myself, are there, they do exist, but many of them are not seen as role models because of the environments that they are serving in. A typical example would be my late mother, who for me represented a faceless, a nameless individual, but was a strength to the community in which she came from. She was a nursing sister with 6 children, But in between that, she supplemented that salary with being the first taxi driver in my city, Port Elizabeth. With the car maintenances running high, she moved on to becoming a distributor of Amway products, moving on to becoming a distributor of Kirby Hoovers, and every other American product that came into the African continent. She was always one of the first people to grab that opportunity. Why she went that way was because she was not only meeting the needs of my family, but also the needs of her extended family and that of her community. And I believe that women like my mother are existing, but they are not given the opportunities, they are not given the tools to be able to make the kind of impact that we see from other women like myself because of social media, because of access to knowledge and information. So, Mr. Kant, I think that as a woman and as a leader, there are many of us who are out there. They may not look like me, but they certainly are there. We need to actually find them and give them the platforms that they really are already serving on.
Lerato, what has been your experience here at GS 2017? Have you met a lot of good young entrepreneurs?
It's just been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we hear countries on the map and we hear them on television, but to actually meet the individuals coming from those various countries was just for me really a huge privilege. I always call myself a global citizen, and indeed coming to Hyderabad, it certainly emphasized and put that stamp or seal of being a global citizen. And I think all the people that are here in this room represent that kind of individual, one who is looking at solving the global goals, the sustainable development goals in their own way, in their own capacity. And truly, it has been one remarkable experience that I'm very grateful for.
Thank you. Thank you. Christina, you've played such a critical role in supporting, promoting, financing women entrepreneurs across Central and Eastern Europe. Tell me, what sort of policies can companies, policies companies can have to encourage more women to participate and speak up? Can we have greater gender parity in companies, a conscious gender parity in companies, particularly in emerging markets?
Well, first I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I've met the most amazing group of entrepreneurs from around the world here, and especially I'd like to thank the Indian government and the US government for collaborating on this amazing conference. Thank you. And wasn't Ivanka fantastic?
Yes.
Yeah. She was terrific. Central Europe, it's an emerging market that is a very special place, not unlike other emerging markets. I like to call them converging markets. In those markets, there are very many women who have set up networks across the region who we are trying to fund, trying to support. And in that effort, we hope that they will also reach out to other women in other emerging markets to create an even larger network. It's very important that women support each other. It's very critical. Madeleine Albright used to say, there's a little place in hell for women who don't help other women. And I think that's very important. In terms of our efforts, I think it's very important for a venture capitalist like me to make sure that we listen to entrepreneurs who have a great idea, who are women, not just because they're women, but because they've got a great idea and they have a great business. And we try to seek those women out. We try to support them with our amazing network and our amazing experience that we have cultivated over the years. We have a lot of Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley families who are invested in our fund, and we try to put them together to elevate them, to elevate these entrepreneurs to an even higher level. So that's how we collaborate with them.
Lovely, lovely. Manish, one of the worrying factors about India is that the level of women participation in terms of jobs and their contribution to India's GDP still remains at low level. I mean, one of the big challenges which we're trying to push through self-help groups, through schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Ujjwala, many other schemes, is to push the level to ensure that we're able to push their participation in education, health to much higher levels. I mean, what do we do as a country? What do we do to ensure greater participation at all levels of businesses? I mean, how do we enhance their contribution to India's GDP in the next decade to much higher levels? What are the 4 or 5 critical issues we must take head on?
Yeah, so I think there are 2 interrelated questions. The first is, one of the most enduring mysteries is, why has women's labor force participation in India fallen from 31% to 18% in the last 25 years, when reforms have opened up and stuff. And the second question, which everybody will have a different answer to, is, does India have a jobs problem or do we have a wages problem? And I'd like to submit those 2 questions are closely related. India doesn't have a jobs problem. Everybody who wants a job has a job. They just don't have the wages. They just don't have the wages they want. I think that's important because 50% of India is self-employed. That's not self-employment, that's self-exploitation. Most of the people who are self-employed. So I think that we have to be
Can you all hear Manish at the back? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Can you be a little louder?
Yeah. So this notion of self-employment as a solution to India's sort of jobs problem is fraught with challenges sometimes, I would submit. You know, not everybody can be an entrepreneur. Not all entrepreneurship is viable. So obviously we need to create as many entrepreneurial opportunities as we can. So the question is the role of government setting specific areas on fire, or is it creating the conditions for spontaneous combustion, right? I mean, everybody has their favorite industry. She'll probably say textile, somebody else will say leather, somebody else will say light industrial. But we have a very bad track record at predicting where jobs will be in the future. So I think the current track which India has taken is actually probably good for all excluded people in the labor force. You know, from where I sit, you know, I've hired somebody every 5 minutes for the last 5 years, but we've only hired 5% of the kids who came to us for a job. There is not that much difference between a ministry for Dalit employment or a ministry for Jat employment or Gujar employment and a ministry for women's employment. And let me explain why I say that. That it's what we need in India is formalization, urbanization, industrialization, and human capital. We have to fix our schools, colleges, and skill system. We only have 52 cities with more than 1 million people. We have 600,000 villages. 200,000 of those villages have less than 200 people. We need to urbanize because higher productivity, higher wages, women employment. But the most important thing we need to do is formalize our labor force. Women's labor force participation, one of the most credible explanations I've heard is that women were fine with working on farms, but they're not fine in working in informal wage employment because of various other reasons. So if you formalize wage employment, women's labor force participation will rise. We've seen the youth sort of in labor force participation show up when you educate women. So I think that the 4 things that India could do is formalize, urbanize, industrialize, and human capital.
Thanks. You know, I'd like this to be more of an interactive session, so I'm going to open it up to a floor a little while later. But Dinesh, can you organize a couple of mics so that the audience can grill this panel as well? Just a couple of mics if we can get. So Mark, let me move on to you.
Sure.
And you're such a critical player in the U.S. administration. I mean, you're the administrator of USAID, which is such a major organization. I wanted to ask you, what can men do? I mean, when women win, we all win. But what can men consciously do to help equalize and improve the participation of women, particularly in emerging markets?
Well, I think there are a number of things. I think first and foremost, we have to recognize the particular barriers that women face. Barriers of access to credit is one of the critical barriers. In too many parts of the world, in rural areas, there's a digital divide. Women simply don't have enough access to IT, to the internet, and we know these days if you're not online, if you don't have access to the internet, you're really shut off not just from opportunities, but from information. And so I think we have to take those issues on. And I think we have to recognize that oftentimes some of the health challenges that affect men and women affect women disproportionately. So for example, here in India, where tuberculosis is such a staggering challenge, we have to recognize that women who have TB often face a particular stigma that locks them out of society, locks them out of economic opportunity, even locks them out of the marketplace. So I think what men have to do and what agencies like USAID have to do, identify the specific barriers that women face and apply tools to help them take those on. We know that women entrepreneurs have great ideas, great vibrancy, that they're looking for their seat at the table. We have to identify those barriers that stop them from taking that seat.
No, I think it's such an important point you've made, and TB is totally curable, actually.
Totally curable.
And
totally unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely unnecessarily. So Dipali, I mean, what has been your experience? I mean, you work with a number of women groups, you work with a number of women enterprises. What has been the backward linkage of WellSpun to women enterprises at the backward? And how have you facilitated the rise of women enterprises?
First of all, at WellSpun, we believe that when we talk about business, we become the agents of change. Mm-hmm. And the biggest struggle that we have seen in our environment and our communities is that women getting that opportunity to work. And hence, when we moved to Anjar, Run of Kutch, which is, I think, if you guys don't know where Anjar is, it's a part of Run of Kutch where it was devastated by an earthquake in 2002-2003, and everything was brought down to rubble. Now, if you see that part of the country, it has the highest GDP. Adult literacy for them, where they didn't know how to even operate their bank accounts. As they operated their bank accounts, they learned how to even, do cut and sew. The children could go to school, and you had an empowered woman who would influence her girl to go to school. If she couldn't go to school, there were smart schools and smart education brought by WellSpun to her doorsteps. So, I think the whole thing, Mr. Kant, is about integrating the whole communities. So we work with the communities. We have these girls who work at WellSpun, where we have the girl hostels, where the girls come in from Jharkhand, which are the remote part of the countries. We make them, we give them an opportunity to graduate. So they have an aspiration to grow in their lives. Because by the end of it, it's not just being in a kind of a blue-collared operator. It's going to be about how you grow in your lives and see that kind of a life cycle. So it's about the communities where they get literate enough, the children go to school, they learn how to do their craft, and there's the closest project to our heart is sanitary napkins. Maximum deaths in our country happen because women are not adequately having enough supply of, to support them. So we actually are working with self-help groups to make sanitary napkins so that, they contribute to making those sanitary napkins. And it also contributes to creating those communities where women are confident enough to step out of their households, because in India, people don't step out of their households if they're going through their, menstruation. So those are the things, I think. So it's about having an empowered society and communities. Imagine $2.9 trillion could be contributed to our country if we could bridge the gap between women and the men, the complete diversity. And by 2025, Mr. Khan, this is for you, if 68 million women can go to work, I think India would be a very different country. So I think when you... So when you talk about India and you talk about women and when you talk about Wellspun, I think there'll be several corporates like us who will be working in the communities, who will be empowering women and looking at the issues which are very, very important to India.
Lerero, let me ask you, I mean, Mark talked about the digital divide, but more than that, to me, the divide is in the world of nutrition, education, health. These are big challenges for India. I mean, how are you confronting these challenges in Africa?
Okay, so I think that I'll personalize the answer to that, Mr. Kant, is that heading a company that is seen to be headed by a woman in an industry that is male-dominated, it comes with the responsibility of being able to pull other women in also pull them up as well as girls. So as a company, we have decided that our focus area will be in social impact in education. So in 2014, Petrolink started a girls' academy called Girl Ignite Africa Academy. And the focus of that was truly to take girls from the age of 10 years old up until 19 years old. And these are girls who are coming from underprivileged communities where they are under-resourced. Even the schools that they attend, they do not have the same quality education, the same kind of exposure that a girl who comes from a privileged community does have. And what we do with them is that we meet on a weekly basis at a farm whereby it's very close to the communities at which they come from. And we focus on 4 areas. The first area is entrepreneurship, whereby the girls are given and taught about the SDGs. And they understand each and every one of those SDGs actually speaks to the communities that they come from. So why do we do that? Is that they actually begin to be the solution change makers for the communities that they come from, instead of us being the ones who are constantly always bringing in the solution. So you want them to be the ones who actually embrace whatever it is that you want to implement in the community. We focus on that, and what they do is to actually start off looking at the SDG that they've been given. They come up with a problem that they've identified in their community. So it could be clean water and sanitation, it could be renewable energy, quality education, gender issues, women and girls, etc. And once they unpack the actual SDG, and then they come up with the solution. And you'd be amazed at the solutions that these girls come up with. We're talking about digital divide, and we're talking about girls who are coming from underprivileged environments, but because they've been given an opportunity to be able to come up with ideas and solutions, these girls come up with ideas for applications, ideas that truly could be groundbreaking given the resources to be able to implement them. We then also focus, so the entrepreneurship is really a social enterprising module. We then look at leadership, and we develop the girls from a spiritual perspective. We start off from there because many of them have gone through so much. So you may want to drill them and put all sorts of things on them, but until you have dealt with the soul of that girl, it will be very impossible for you to get into, their full potential. And then we look at, we do maths labs with them, because each one of them, whether they're doing it on a higher grade or a lower grade, they have to have mathematics. So we employ tutors who come in, master's graduates from local universities in Johannesburg, who come and spend time tutoring these girls and really setting a foundation for them so that they understand that a 21st century education will require some form of mathematics, whether it's in finances, whether it's in IT, but maths will play a core part of it. Thanks. And lastly, we do wellness with them, where the girls take care of their bodies. So I'm a cyclist, and it was just a natural thing to engage the girls in cycling. Some sports that they not necessarily are exposed to, but in essence, what we're looking at is a holistic program for the community, whereby the girls are being raised to become leaders who will be servant leaders in the communities that they come from, as well as wherever they may find themselves. So that is how we are actually bridging that gap in terms of involving them from a very young age, so that they understand that this is also their responsibility more than the government's or their parents or anybody else.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. A great example of community participation, actually. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. We have just a few moments. Please sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, no parallel presentations. Shoot your questions. First choice to the lady here. Just get up and shoot, very, very little time. And just no long winding questions. Shoot your questions straight away. Yep. Yell, yell. You got a great voice. Just shout. Yeah, just shout. What's your question? No. Anybody with a question? Any lady with a question?
I have a
yeah,
question,
please,
sir.
please shoot your question.
I would like the esteemed panel to respond on how can we bridge that gap. There are percentage-wise, very few women CEOs around the world, in every country, including India. So,
yeah, so Christina,
why don't I take that?
Christina and then Mark.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's true, and actually there have been legislation in France, as you know, that legislated that companies that are publicly traded have to have a minimum of 40% women as board members. Interestingly, in the US right now, it's about 20%. And there's a lot of effort that's being done right now to try to get that higher, obviously. Because it takes the direction from the top of the board to tell management that this is a priority. Because if it's not a priority, and it's not incented properly at the mid-level, then the flow of girls coming up the pipeline won't happen because people won't be paying attention to it because the men don't think it's a problem. And if they don't think it's a problem and they're not properly incented to do that, it won't happen. So it has to come from the top. And that's changing.
Thanks. Mark, you want to add on to that?
Sure. Well, specifically, I think education. I think we have to do a better job of providing access to education for girls and women all around the world. Secondly, I think we simply have to have as a declaratory statement, it is not possible in this rapidly changing, complicated, complex world for us to meet the challenges that are there unless we're listening to all of our voices, every part of the community. And that must be a mission statement at every company, every organization, every level of government.
Right.
I think that's what we must begin with. If we do that, everything is possible.
That's a great one, Mark.
I have a question.
Will you please sit down? This is about women first. Lady there.
There is a male bias here.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Chauravi. In the very small company that we run, I have found that women have far higher productivity, better attitude, and longevity. My question to you is, on the success of Make in India, Incredible India, can you find a marketing campaign that lets companies know that and then give them an incentive to employ a greater number of women? Because the statistic around going from 30% to 18% was shocking. Second question, is there a way to incentivize equal wage? Because even when we look at semi-skilled jobs and we work with contract manufacturers and large number of people employed, women are paid 20% less. So if the man is paid 250 rupees a day, the woman will be paid 200 rupees for the same job.
Okay.
And that's my
So Manish, will you respond to the second part of the question? I'll take on the first part.
The second question is it's illegal.
Okay, so, my belief is that, we need to focus. My belief is that we need to really focus in a very big way on 7 states of India, 201 districts of India, focus very, very strongly. It's on education, on health, on nutrition. That is what is going to make a difference. It's not about a branding campaign. It's about providing education and health and ensuring better livelihood for women. Yes, madam, what about you?
I was going to say I agree with what you said. So my question to you is, in addition to that, when you're dealing with rural communities, right, where they have not, especially with young ladies, they have not seen women in the workforce. Before something can be possible, before something can be probable, it's got to be possible. So how do you overcome those social stigmas and social issues surrounding women going into work?
So, Dipali, will you respond to this?
You know, when we talk about social stigmas, it's all about how you can create those mentors within the communities. When you work in the communities, creating examples in those communities is very, very important. And hence, I think that's where, you know, is the role of the corporates to get together to work with them. And that's what actually we are doing, actually. We are training them, we are multi-skilling them. And I'll give you an example. Not only we are not teaching them how to multitask at home, because they wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. They handle the work, the household chores, then they come to work. Husband doesn't even lift up a spoon to do anything. But now we're training the men how they can share the responsibilities as well. So I think these are small steps forward, but actually they make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah. Amitabh, can I?
Well, she's, you know, Dipali is, you know, I know her husband pretty well, you know. So the great thing about Dipali is that she started running the business and her husband has started managing the kitchen now.
Hello. I have a question.
You know, I've got to be careful in what I say. But cultural explanations are at best the soft bigotry of low expectations, and at worst they are racism. A lot of what we see reflects the absence of the infrastructure of opportunity. If you treat this like a cultural problem, you won't be able to solve it in our lifetime. If you treat it like a plumbing problem, let's get all 63 million enterprises formalized. Let's get our cities urbanized. Let's get our schools fixed. Let's get the colleges fixed. And let's get 11% of our labor force in manufacturing up to 25% of our labor force in manufacturing. I mean, I think if we want to do specific, finite, and actionable next steps, we can transform this in the next 10, 15, 20 years. If we're going to treat this like a cultural problem, the best solvent for cultural explanations is the infrastructure of opportunity.
Yeah. You know, but one of the big lessons of the first panel discussion was that you know, I think it was very important that men have a very critical role to play. If you want women first, prosperity for all, men have a very, very critical role. And they need to get into roles which women have traditionally been performing. I mean, it's very, very critical that women get into economic activities. They start giving a bigger and a higher contribution to GDP, and men get into roles which traditionally and dominantly have been played by women. Madam,
yes, hello everybody. Anra Vanona, founder of Global Invest Her, a platform to help women entrepreneurs learn about funding. My question is, how do we get more women to become investors, and how do we get more men to invest in women?
Great question. Great question, Madam. Christina.
Yes, it's a problem. In fact, in the United States, about 72% of the venture capital funds are dominated by men and don't have any women who are making investment decisions. And actually in Europe, it's even worse. So what do we do? I think it's important to have major entrepreneurs who've become successful, women who've become successful, to lend their voice. So the Sheryl Sandbergs of the world, she needs to speak up, as she has done and written the book. And then other women need to do the same. So, you know, we have our women's networks that we're establishing and we're putting together and trying hard to pull each other up. But that's not enough. I think we have to show that it's actually important to have a diverse group in an investment committee or on a fund to be able to increase the returns. And there's data to prove that once it's a diverse group of investors making that decision, the risks are lowered and the returns have increased. So
great.
That's data enough.
So this is a very fascinating discussion on, so we're going to break the time barrier a little bit. Lady there, somewhere here, yeah, please.
Hi, this is a question for Amitabh. So one of
I'm not a part of the panel, I'm a moderator. You can shoot the question to the panel.
But still, I still want you to think about this, because one of the things that, this is a slightly unpopular question, one of the things that we
run into in the West is that there is a negative impact of overconsumption and of too much wealth, and we all know that now. With the huge growth in suburbia and so on, people are depressed. And in India, we have poverty is our advantage actually, because it does somehow, create a better community where people are talking more, playing more. There's no play dates. We play on the ground. And I'm wondering if you, sir, have thought about, thinking even about consumption, rethinking consumption, so that we understand that we're not following the same goals as we've been, at least my generation followed, which is MBA and go to the West and so on.
So my only response to that is that when the American part of the world or the Western part of the world urbanized, land, gas, and water were all cheaply available. And because they were cheaply available, they created sprawling cities. You created cities like Atlanta, where 99% of the people travel by car. I mean, that model of urbanization is dead. You need compact, dense cities. You need, the process of urbanization has ended in America, it's ended in Europe, it's nearing its completion in China. In India, it's just begun. We will do more urbanization in next 5 decades than what in India we've done in the last 5,000 years. So we need if we follow the American and the European model of urbanization, we need 4 planet Earth. We have only 1 planet Earth. And therefore, India needs to do a very innovative and sustainable model of urbanization. We need to ensure that our cities are embedded with public transportation. We recycle our water, we recycle our waste. That is the biggest challenge we have as we begin our process of urbanization. A very, very sustainable process of urbanization. Lady there, you were asking a question. Please shoot. All the ladies here, you can shoot as many questions as you want, quickly.
So can I ask a question?
And no questions for any male here. Okay.
I'm Sucharita from Catalyst for Women Entrepreneurship. And I wanted to say that in spite of all the cultural challenges that was mentioned earlier, the women...
Madam, come to the question.
The women startup scenario is the fastest growing in the startup segment. So I wanted to ask if each of the stakeholders, the investors, the government, policymakers, and the corporate sector, what would you like to do to make this fastest growing segment really, really move fast?
So, Mark, Christina, and then Lerato.
Better access to credit, closing the digital divide that hold women, especially in the rural areas, back, creating mentorships to help women entrepreneurs take it to the next level. I think there are a number of things we can do, but the final thing is focus on men.
Great.
The problem that women often face is discrimination, at least soft discrimination by men. So work on messaging to men why it is that women are important in the workplace. Take those success stories and message them to men.
Christina, you want to add something?
Yes, I think we need to have multilaterals get together and support and fund an emerging market fund supporting women.
Okay, wonderful.
All right. Next question
so
here.
last 2 questions.
Sir,
I'm here. The lady
right
here.
here in front of you. So
I'm here.
My name is Aditi and I'm a woman entrepreneur. One of my questions is, which is faced
No, just one question.
Yes.
Just one question.
My question is something that a lot of women entrepreneurs struggle with, and that is that men are in reality in more positions of power than women are, and when we need to seek their advice, mentorship, investment, whatever it might be, how do you make it so it's comfortable to the men themselves? Because many times men themselves are they have wives, and many times the wives do not like it that you are mentoring someone in the evening or after work and all, and that's something that is faced.
Okay, so how do men provide mentorship? Manish?
To women, yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Without it being uncomfortable,
yeah. He's best equipped to respond to this. Come on.
On what basis?
He runs the vocational university in Gujarat. Come on, Manish. Respond to that one. First time I've seen Manish faltering for words.
I'll respond to it because I have male mentors and they're fabulous, and many of them have daughters, and that's the point. There's data that proves that men become much more empathetic when they have daughters, and when they have teenage daughters, they're even more empathetic. They've done surveys on this. Harvard's done surveys about this.
So any woman at the back, anywhere?
All right, here.
Yeah, the lady there from. Yeah, please. No, let me give. Yeah. Come. You know, I'm breaking the time barrier because there's terrific energy here. Yeah, man, please. No, I'm coming. Coming. You know, this is actually turning out to be the best session of this entire conference.
Check.
Yeah, please shoot.
Thank you. I thought you wouldn't see the woman in red out here.
Please shoot.
Anyways, thank you for having us here. And before I shoot, I really have to talk to Madame Matsanai. I really like the way you spoke about spirituality. I think that is what is most important and needed in the world today. And I represent the women of the Himalayas, you know. We are people who really need help and support. And when you're talking about aggregation, that, you know, is really, you know, talking to us. We have very small land holdings, and networking is very important. We would like to ask the world's entrepreneurs, if you all have space for us in your hearts, you know, please do something for us, okay? That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you. We are all here. So please. So this is the last question of the day, and I turn to the lady on the left. Lady on the left. Yeah.
My question is, how do you change the DNA of entitlement mentality in men?
Oh, that's a really tough one. Manish, how do you change the DNA? DNA of entitlement. Okay.
He will definitely.
I've never seen Manish Sabharwal at such a loss of words. Mark.
Well, first off, I would say I think what you heard is just right. I think men who have daughters, I think have their eyes open. Sometimes they feel like they're surrounded. Since I have teenage daughters, I know what that is like. But no, I think sister-to-sister mentorships are incredibly important. Women entrepreneurs who can talk with other women entrepreneurs, they can share challenges, they can share solutions. To me, that is a very important way.
No, I think that's a very important point Mark has made. You know, I have 2 daughters, and it's a great experience. They've outperformed me in every area of life. And they've, you know, I mean, when I went to college, it was an all-male bastion. When my daughter went to the same college, St. Stephen's in Delhi, 88% of the students there were all women on merit. And the college said that the college principal said that you have to give 10% extra marks to boys to ensure that it remains a co-educational college. You know, so that's how women in India are outperforming men in every single competitive exam of India. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that we conclude the session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Let's go. Thank you. Great day.
Everybody off the stage.
Thank you. It was lovely meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats. The gist portion of our event is about to begin. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, again, please remain in your seats. We will start the GIST Catalyst final pitches and award ceremony momentarily. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats.
Sound test 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
This initiative is committed to identifying young scientists and innovators and supporting them and helping them to achieve their dreams of success.
I would like to welcome you to today's GIST Tech Connect program.
Technology risk is one part.
The viewing group in Tunisia has
working with Jordan entrepreneurs, trying to get them to the next level.
I want to know what kind of leader you are.
Let's modify it into something that can actually be sent to the market.
Welcome to the Global Innovation Through Science and Technology, or GIST, TechEye Finals.
I was shy. I was thinking, how can I go to people to tell that, vote for me, but I did it.
Everyone has a turning point in his life, and in my business life just is my turning point.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Consul General Catherine Hatta, and I'm from the U.S. Consulate General here in Hyderabad, which is a great honor and a privilege. Thank you all for coming. Okay. You can also tell that I've been working for the government for quite a while, because I still read off paper. And so by next event like this, I would like some ideas on how I can do this a little better, and that's what innovation is all about. But meanwhile, let me say that this year's Global Entrepreneurship Summit has been just amazing. And I know I speak for every one of us in the US government and also in the State Department, which is my home agency. It's so inspiring to meet the world's best and brightest entrepreneurs and the investors and the mentors who help them along. This has been a wonderful, wonderful 2 days. So I just want to give everyone here a round of applause. Now, this is our last event of the GES, and in some ways it just sums up everything that's been happening here, because in a few minutes you're going to hear pitches from 4 very talented finalists of the GIST Catalyst Pitch Competition. GIST stands for the State Department's Global Innovation Through Science and Technology Initiative, and it empowers young innovators through networking, skills building, mentoring, and access to financing to develop startup solutions that address economic and development challenges. Very much what you're all here to do today. GIST Catalyst even takes this a step further by helping entrepreneurs elevate their pitching skills and showcase their startups on a global stage. And if we're anywhere, we're on a global stage today, right here in Hyderabad. To learn more about all the opportunities available to all of you through the GIST initiative, I hope you'll visit gistnetwork.org. That's GIST network.org. And in keeping with this year's GES theme, Women First, Prosperity for All, GIST places an emphasis on engaging women entrepreneurs throughout its programs. And this year's pitch competition is no exception. 50% of our semifinalists were women this year. Now, GIST Catalyst and other GIST programs would not be possible without the business community, so I would really especially like to thank our Catalyst judges and sponsors for their time and support. Our 24 semifinalists are some of the brightest entrepreneurs out there, and the 4 finalists, one representing each of the 4 GES focus industries, are now going to pitch their startups to address some of the most pressing issues in their communities, and the grand champion will be announced after they're done. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to invite Ajita Shah from Frontiers Markets to the stage. Okay. No.
In India, 270 million people live in darkness, fear, and instability due to the lack of regular access to reliable electricity. While clean energy products can address this, we need to create solutions that are driven by households to reach the last mile faster. Frontier Markets has a proven business model that is ready to scale, putting women in the center of the value chain. Our 1,000 women entrepreneurs get trained in marketing, technology, product innovation, and get access to innovative clean energy products to sell to rural households to earn income. To date, our 1,000 women entrepreneurs have earned $2.5 million in revenue by selling solar home systems, clean cook stoves, and agri-appliances to 400,000 households in Rajasthan. We continue to innovate by listening to the rural household to understand what's next: a solar cook stove, a agri-appliance, a solar TV, and we partner with local Indian manufacturers to make that into a reality. We do this by listening to our rural households and also driving financial inclusion for our women entrepreneurs. Last year, our women entrepreneurs helped Frontier Markets break even, and now we're seeking $2 million of growth capital to expand our work into 6 states of India to generate $26 million of revenue and create 10,000 women entrepreneurs. We want to really understand that the last mile is about product innovation and people. Help us understand that women will be in control, they will be creditworthy, and the last mile will be heard. Join me in proving that investing in women is smartest business and the key to poverty alleviation and scale. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll hear from our second finalist, Janesh Sinha from Gandhan. Please come to the stage.
Hello everyone, my name is Janesh Sinha and I'm one of the founders of Gandhan. We are an education financing marketplace and the problem that we are addressing is huge. While education loans account for 46% of the higher education spend in the US, that number in India is just 5%, despite the low income levels. This clearly reflects the lack of opportunity, the lack of equality in opportunity to education. The reason for limited lending is that lenders find it difficult to assess students' future income, and therefore they rely on parental income and collateral to underwrite education loans. To solve for this, we have developed a model to predict students' future income, and we are working with lenders to create new education loan products. We do not charge any money from the students, but rather earn from the lenders. And we have received a great response with over $24 million in student loans originated in just 18 months since our inception. Before starting Gandhan, we actually worked in Capital One, which is one of the largest banks in the US, shaping credit strategies for them. And we are currently seeking $3.5 million in funding so that we can expand our current setup and also establish a US lending arm. This US lending arm will help us address the problem that lenders have around cross-border defaults because we'll create a two-country credit reporting structure. I faced financial hurdles during my own higher education, but was helped by Super 30, a philanthropic organization. Now I want to do the same to others like me. I thank you.
Okay, I'd now like to invite Fiona Edwards-Murphy from EPIS Protect to the stage.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay. Imagine walking into a grocery store and realizing that there weren't any apples. There were no blueberries, no almonds. 1/3 of the food that we eat every day is reliant on having access to healthy honeybees. But there's a problem. Honeybees aren't healthy. There are a variety of diseases and pests devastating hives, and beekeepers are now finding that they're losing up to half of their honeybees every single year. This isn't just a problem for the €3 billion international honey market, but also for the global agri-food industry. Honeybees provide an estimated €153 billion worth of pollination to the global food industry. My name is Fiona Edwards-Murphy. I'm the CEO and co-founder of APIS Protect. APIS is the Latin word for bee, so APIS Protect literally means we protect the bees. And we do that using our unique Internet of Things solution. We place sensors inside the beehive and we collect data from them. We apply big data and machine learning techniques to extract valuable information about the colony. And then we provide actionable insights to the beekeeper, which allows them to take action to reduce losses and increase productivity in their hives. We have a unique team with decades of scientific, commercial, and engineering experience. And we've developed the second version of our platform, which will be rolling out to 200 beehives starting in December of 2017 as part of our commercial trial. We're also raising our seed round at the moment of €500,000, and I'd be really interested in speaking to anyone here today who can help me finalize that. APIS Protect is using groundbreaking technology to help our most important little friends stay healthy and continue providing us with food for generations to come. Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite Maria Burns-Ortiz from 7 Generation Games to the stage.
Hi, I'm Maria Burns-Ortiz, co-founder and CEO of 7 Generation Games. In the United States alone, we have 40 million children in schools today who will finish their education without the skills necessary to compete in math, with the growing number of jobs in STEM to having basic financial literacy. We are literally and figuratively failing our children. And this isn't just a US problem. In Latin America, 70% of kids will complete their education without these necessary math skills. That's why we developed 7 Generation Games, combining educational research, game design, and artificial intelligence into video games that teach math in culturally relevant contexts in English and Spanish. With $1.7 million in funding to date, almost exclusively from non-dilutive grants, we've built out our games and have deployed them in schools across the United States. We've generating traction, we have revenue, and we've seen our number of schools using our games double in the last 3 months alone. Most importantly, our games work. Kids who play at our games improved 300% of the control group in just 10 weeks. We're now expanding into Latin America, a market underserved by the ed tech industry, where the growth rate for learning games is 47% a year. Right now we're raising $750,000 to make this happen so that we can continue our growth in the US market as well as expand internationally. We project reaching 10 million children and $30 million in annual revenue within 5 years. At 7 Generation Games, we're making better educational games because we believe better math scores open doors to better futures. Thank you.
In the United States, where I'm from, we greet people with a big old word called howdy. So let's hear it. There we go. I like it. Namaste. I'll return the favor. My name is Elizabeth Gore, and I am the entrepreneur resident at Dell, and I am the very proud chairman of Alice, the artificial intelligence software that helps every founder with the resources they need to scale at helloalice.com. I get to talk about the winners. Can we give them a massive round of applause? So what an inspiring couple of days. My favorite part has been really spending time with all of you as entrepreneurs and then judging the GIST competition. So it takes a lot for an entrepreneur to scale and succeed. I think all of you know that. It takes partners, it takes government, it takes the support of our families. And I want to thank our sponsors who have really wrapped themselves around each of these entrepreneurs and asked them to join us on stage today. First is Amazon Web Services. Next, we have Dell Technologies. We're very proud to be joined by Cognizant, a company you might have heard of called Google. And I am very proud to be representing Alice. So let's really thank our sponsors and partners for supporting our entrepreneurs. So all of the judges had a very inspiring yet stressful time to help choose all of our winners here in Hyderabad. We had 24 semifinalists pitch over the past 2 days. So first, let's give everyone who pitched a huge round of applause. Each of our semifinalists will receive $1,500 in Amazon Web Service credits, as well as, let's give them a round of applause, as well as support from helloalice.com. From there, we then had 6 competitors in the GIST Catalyst competition who focused on 4 different focus industries, and it was so hard, but all of our judges picked both a finalist and a runner-up. Each of the runners-up will receive $5,000 in Amazon Web Services. Can we give that a round of applause? They get Alice resources. They get a Dell laptop. Amazing. We all need our technology. They get a $500 voucher to Airbnb. And we actually have a massive surprise for each of our runners-up from Google. So I'd love to have them join me. And do you guys want a surprise? All right, come on up.
So for the winner, we have a $100,000 credit. And for each of the, thank you. For each of the runners-up, we have a $20,000 credit. But even more surprising is we were so overwhelmed by the quality of ideas and the presentations that we thought that we will extend it to 3 very strong women entrepreneurs, and we would extend them a $20,000 credit as well. Thank you. They are Evelyn Chilomo from Lupia Circle, Zambia. Christy Gorenas from Defendable, USA. And Vaishali Neotia from Merixius Software, India. Thank you.
Let's thank that little tiny startup, Google, one more time for all of our support. Okay, so now we move on to our finalists. You heard them pitch here. Such bravery to come out in front of all of you to do this. Each of the finalists have an even larger prize package. They get $10,000 in Amazon Web credits. They get a Dell laptop. They get $20,000 in Google Cloud credits. Have y'all heard of the cloud? It's cloudy outside. And then they get a full scholarship to the Alice Circular Summit, March 1st in Washington, D.C. So let's give all of them a round of applause. Now, if you remember our theme this year at GES, Women First, Prosperity for All. A few of our prize sponsors wanted to acknowledge the extremely important support of every exceptional woman at this GES Catalyst Pitch Competition. Amazon has really stepped forward with their Women First Award. It's for every woman who is thinking about impact in their business. At the GIST competition, we actually scored which women is putting purpose into profit. And those with the highest impact score are winning this GIST competition prize from Amazon. She will receive $50,000 in Amazon Web Service credits, an exclusive virtual mentoring session with an Amazon executive, a Dell laptop, and entrance into the Alice Circular Summit in March. I am very excited to announce, on behalf of Amazon, the winner of the Women First Amazon Award, Molly Morse, from Mango Materials from the United States of America. As many of you might know, women put 90% of their income back into their communities and families. So I want to thank every woman entrepreneur and ask them to stand up who actually came all the way to Hyderabad for GES. Please stand, women entrepreneurs. Woo, woo, woo! That's right. Well done, women. Now, are we ready for our grand champion? They're like, no, we're fine. We'll just sit here and keep waiting forever. We have an unbelievable prize package for our entrepreneur. All of you are outstanding and are going to go far in the world. Our grand champion will receive $50,000 in Amazon Web Service credits, a Dell laptop, admission to the Circular Summit from Alice, an exclusive virtual mentoring session with an Amazon executive, $100,000 in Google credits, an interview with yours truly in Inc. magazine, admission to the 2018 Alice Accelerator, and they will be designated, I think this is my favorite term of all time, a Cognizant Genius Award winner with $2,000 in cash. Wow. You guys aren't ready, are you? Yeah. Okay. I am so proud to thank and honor our grand champion for the 2017 GIST competition, Ajayeta Shah from Frontier Markets in India. Woo!
I just want to thank again our GIST Catalyst sponsors, and congratulations again to our grand champion, Women First Award winner, finalists, and all competitors. And for all GES participants, please remember that GIST Network has resources available to you. We have an online mentor match portal to help connect mentors and mentees and encourage entrepreneurs to apply for the upcoming GIST Tech Eye Pitch competition. So please keep up with us. Congratulations again, and well done all of you for a fantastic GES. Thank you.
Thank you to the U.S. government and to all of our sponsors for hosting GES. Please make your way to the south doors and attend the closing reception at GES. Finally, for members of the press, Minister Rao will immediately hold a press conference in this hall